Hi, everybody. News editor Sean McCracken here with Priya and Chandnani from Sage Hospitality. Priya, I would give your title, but we were just talking about I'm not going to remember the whole thing. So what was it again?
Priya Chandnani, Senior Vice President, Sales, Revenue, and Distribution Strategy.
Okay. Which is, I should remember those things because I'm about to do a panel about commercial strategy, and those are the disciplines of commercial strategy. So it shouldn't be that hard to remember. But anyway, how are you feeling today?
I feel great. I'm here. I've met with friends. I will tell you, listening to Amanda and Adam and Jan speak about the projections, not surprising, still bummed. Probably need a few cocktails this evening to sustain.
Yes, so
sustain.
For listeners' benefit, we're recording this right after the general session, and it was not the most
sunshine
rosy.
And rain.
Yeah. So, but what's your general outlook right now? Like, how are you feeling about the state of things?
Yeah, I mean, none of it was really surprising to us. Our hotel portfolio does lean more heavily toward the luxury, independent, class. So, thankfully, our numbers aren't as anemic as what we saw this morning. That being said, the upscale, you couldn't agree more. We're starting to see that lag in demand. Rates lagging too, right? The price resistance is still there. I think my favorite takeaway from today, and I think we should all do this is in hospitality, we've learned this a number of times before, is to continue to hold on that pricing, continue to hold on rate. We've seen this movie before, we've read this book before. Dropping rate does not trigger demand that's not there. So, as much as we can continue to optimize, hold strong on those rates, as an industry, we fought hard to get here. We want to continue to hold that.
I mean, it seems like everybody felt like they kind of learned that lesson, at least through the pandemic. Like, everybody was worried about a race to the bottom that never really happened. So you can be thankful for that.
I was so proud of us during COVID. Can I just tell you, it was very emotional for me because you're right. I think, did a fantastic job holding. There wasn't that much demand out there, so I think that really helped too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not chasing much. But we have seen, certain, what do we call them, pirates, or certain, detractors who will go and start driving down the market. Thankfully, we're seeing less and less of that lately, which I think is great.
Yeah, the flip side of that is I remember coming out of COVID, there was some level of maybe unreasonable optimism that, like, well, this rate, this pricing power we've got is amazing. This is how it's going to be forever, right? And maybe not the case.
Listen, we celebrate. We're hospitality people. I always say we celebrate hard, and we party hard and we work hard. So yes, if there was cause to celebrate, there was fireworks and sunshine and rainbows, and the world's going to be beautiful again.
It's always funny to me though when moments like that covering the industry that it's like, well, the bad thing is a short-term thing. But the good thing will probably last forever. There's no reason to believe that it won't, right? You're just like...
Oh my God. Okay, so, we've been tracking this starting Q1 of this year, right? And there was this sense of confidence with the summer. We did see the lag in international demand, but I know I had pegged my optimism, as you call it, on domestic travel spiking, very similar to COVID, where I figured, hey, statistically, we'd see less of the outbound and we'd see more of the domestic travel. And, again, goes back to that pricing strategy, but we also saw so much more of premium room types sell during that time period. We wanted to be very cautious about how we managed our yielding process there. I joke with my team, I always tell them I wish Jeff Bezos didn't get married in Venice. He could have chosen Denver. It would have been, we have 25 hotels there. We would have protected him from the protesters and celebrated his wedding in style. Obviously, we saw a lot more of that international outbound. It grew over the prior year or two. So, certainly disappointing.
Well, the bad news for you, if he did a domestic, it probably would have been Miami, right? So probably not Denver anyway.
Denver is beautiful,
I'm
Sean.
not saying
I
it's
don't
not.
even-
You know what? I will admit, I have friends in Denver, and the only place in Denver I've ever stepped foot is the airport. Like, I've never left I've run across that airport, but I've never stepped out of it.
You cannot go wrong with Denver Airport. May I tell you, there are lesser
I
flights,
always go wrong
less
in Denver
delays,
Airport.
less cancellations. No, really? I mean, I don't do Chicago for that reason. I always find flights get delayed or canceled in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, this is going to turn into the complaining about United Airlines podcast pretty quickly.
My primary airport is Newark. Do you want to start talking about
Oh my
complaining?
gosh. As somebody who is typically a United loyal customer, I'm familiar. I will say none of the ones we have named are my least favorite United hub, though, because I hate flying through Houston so much. Anyway, this is a tangent.
This is a tangent. We're coming back.
So you
Coming back to
mentioned,
hotels.
though, you mentioned that you guys are pretty independent heavy. What's it like in that space right now, and how's it kind of revenue managing around demand for those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's unique in the sense that we've got, independent hotels downtown, and then we've got a lot of destination markets. We are the first management company to partner with Marriott on their Apartments by Marriott, so their A&B product, which we're very excited about. There's a new property we just opened, and there's another one in the works currently. So excited about what that means in terms of definition. And, we're very proud to be part of the Marriott advisory team where we can work with them and engage with them on how that differentiates itself from some of the other long stay products that we have out there.
So I'm curious. I mean, you've been at Sage for a couple of years now, right? I'm trying to remember the
2
timing
years
off
now,
my head.
yes.
So yeah, a couple of years. I was right then. And obviously, your title reflects this fact that kind of overseeing the whole commercial discipline. What's that evolution like? Like, where are we at on the course of that? Because I know everybody talks about it a lot. Some people are further along in kind of integrating all of them. But where do you see yourselves and kind of the industry moving?
I mean, it's exciting times for us, isn't it? It's exciting times not only in the world of sales and revenue management and that distribution chain. Take distribution, for instance, in a world where we're just scratching the surface right now on AI-powered search. I can specifically state for at least our company, we're starting to evaluate, but we're not there yet where we found that level of sophistication. Talking to some of our other owners too, it's exciting times because we're all willing to try, right? The best part is you're out there going, let's try out new avenues, let's test them out. We might fail in some of them, but we can pivot quickly, and I think that's important. But how does that then tie into the way we structure sales? How does that tie into the way we deploy our marketing resources? And right now, to me, it's a blank canvas. It's that ability to say we can build from scratch and start making our way there. What I am excited about, and I think someone mentioned it this morning at the general session, is the synergies that we're creating with operations as well. So, we can deploy, we can market, we can find new avenues, but to retain the guest, we need strength in operations. And that ability to say, how do we retain that guest and continue, make him or her a loyalist within a Sage brand of hotels. So that, to me, the synergies keep evolving. Personally, I love the fact that Sage not only has hotels, but we've got food and beverage too. And so restaurant concepts is something we're dabbling with right now. The ability to say, how do we bring some of this structure that we've almost created with room revenue management to food and beverage, to spa, which we've spoken about for a few years, but to be able to say we've reached it. I know I tend to be sunshine and rainbows sometimes, but take it for what it's worth. There is a certain degree of sophistication I think we've reached with room revenue management right now. We've hit that level of, hey, inflation, maybe slightly below inflation, but are we finding that silver bullet anymore? Probably not. We've gotten very, very mature with our RMS tools. We've gotten very mature with the ability of our teams to scale across multiple hotels. So if revenue management has to continue evolving, if commercial has to continue evolving, it needs to influence other facets of revenue generation, but also, to me, profitability. So, the things I've been talking about is how do we as commercial impact the bottom line, and it's not just through cost of acquisition, it's labor management. It's our ability to say, yes, we want to drive the top line, but how do we then also influence the bottom line using data analytics? And some of it is Excel sheets, as we did, decades ago with room revenue management, but it's a start, and it allows us the ability to say, take room revenue management off my plate because I've got tools that can do them and I've got effectiveness there. How do I start influencing other aspects of profitability within the hotels? And to me, I think that's what's going to keep us in the lead as compared to some of our competitors.
For sure. It is kind of interesting when you think about, the evolution of revenue management, and what you're saying is the kind of bad side of getting good at something is that the easy wins go away. So you have to try harder to get better, but like you're mentioning, there's plenty of things that this industry in general still doesn't do well. So you can identify those things and get better at them. Yeah,
I'll tell you, when I started out with revenue management, and I may be one of the few that actually went to school for revenue management as my concentration, one of the key concepts, right, of revenue management is it influences perishable commodities. But if you take a step back, everything's a perishable commodity, right? If I'm at a bar and I'm looking at stock liquor that might last a year, it's still on that shelf, and it's the shelf time that's perishable. So how quickly do I get those bottles off the shelf and influence my level of profitability versus leaving them there and assuming they're not perishable? So there's multi-facets of where you can start influencing. And to your point, I think we've reached such a degree of relevancy in what we do. You can get comfortable, or you can say, okay, what else is out there? Because this, to me, is set up beautifully. I mean, we've reached that level of sophistication.
I will say, as somebody who's known you for a few years now and has interviewed you a few times, a lot of times when you think of innovation, you bring up something alcohol related, and I'm not going to try to read too deeply into that.
Let's not talk about my alcohol consumption.
Well,
but
I didn't say anything about consumption.
To be fair, I send you pictures when I come up with revenue management solutions for alcohol.
So you brought up AI already. It is obviously an interesting time. It's, pretty nascent in a lot of ways. How are you guys kind of grappling with both how you guys use AI internally and also, how it interacts with distribution and everything else, how the customer interacts with it?
Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, it is nascent. Our Chief Technology Officer, Matt Schwartz, is a huge proponent of all things AI, so I know he's bringing in or exposing us to new concepts around labor management, around cost effectiveness, etc. For me, what's exciting right now is the distribution components of AI that we can bring to the table. Not to take OTAs off the table, right? But we're looking at a world where you can now seamlessly make a reservation using PayPal versus having to do it through Expedia or Booking.com. What I do find interesting is when you look at OpenAI integrated platforms, Expedia is already on it, right? Booking.com is already on it. We're working with the brands right now to be like, how do we get on it, or how do we start engaging with them, right? So I don't want to say we're usually slow to adopt technology, but we're usually slow to adopt technology with hospitality. And I understand why. We invest in our people. We're still a people-oriented industry, and we invest in training and development. But technology is one part where I do think, having AI as an option for kind of levels the playground in terms of investment for a lot of us. And I think that's exciting times. The ability to reach out to a consumer without having a third party, cost, or without having that third party liaison, I think is exciting times. There are new partners out there that, we want to start testing with, obviously. But you can already tell the Expedias and Booking.coms of the world are jumping on that boat sooner than later.
I mean, and it's hard for hotel companies too, because obviously there's you know, I go to High Tech every year. You walk through the expo floor. Every vendor has AI on their big signage, and it's just like, how much of this is like real and how much of it is branding?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to sort the wheat from the chaff type of thing. You
Yeah.
know?
I'll tell you, we do quarterly reviews with some of our owners, mainly REITs, and that seems to be the consistent conversation. If, like, for them too, they recognize the value that it could potentially drive. What I love is their willingness to collaborate and engage with us there, going, let's test it. Let's try out new things. And I think, to me, that's really where we will excel, is the ability to say, I'm going to try it. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm going to give it a shot, though.
Yeah.
We're already engaging with alternate payment modules and how that can drive some of our demand. We've been doing that for a long time, but the ability to say, how do we reach out through this new distribution avenue that doesn't really adhere to our traditional distribution models is... Well, it's something new to learn. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. The tricky thing is, too, obviously I don't work in hotel revenue management or commercial strategy, but I work in a field that is definitely impacted by AI. And you interact with it in various ways. In some ways you can see, oh my gosh, this is like game-changing. It'll help me be way more productive. And in other ways that, people will say, like, well, try this, and it'll be right in front of you and be like, this is just bad. Like, this is like destructively bad because it can be so wrong and so off the mark. Like, so even with that, it's hard to, like, I imagine when you're out there selling to your teams, like, well, we got these new tools, try this and this and this, and sometimes it can be helpful and sometimes it's really, really not. It sometimes be tough not to get discouraged.
100%. I also think it's adopting with the new efficiencies, right?
Yeah.
So, like, one of the things we have been doing is automating a lot of the daily, weekly in the world we live in today, do I really need Excel for a daily pickup report? Probably not. I need a more automated process to do that. And so we're utilizing a lot of our AI-powered databases to say, can we create, daily pickups, weekly pickups, but more importantly, stuff that we were doing on a manual basis, like a meeting recap or, a summary of a report, which now we can lean on, an AI generated tool to deliver for us. Does that create a sense of relevance conversation? Of course it does, right? With the team too. But this is what I do. This is like storytelling is what I am most proud of. And so the ability to say, well, tell a different story and, let's give you the tools to get you there is going to be important as we start thinking of that evolution in revenue management too.
Yeah. And just like with, any sort of automation, it's about taking the grunt work out ideally, right? Like it's nowhere near the point where this is a human being's job that it's doing, unless you had somebody just purely doing like inputting data.
Day in and day out. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it is take the grunt work out so that we can really sit down and take the time to think. How do we... One of the things I was telling the team, so we usually do a, prior to budget season, what does next year look like for us in terms of just our commercial leaders? But more importantly, what do we want? Like, what do we see as our goals, personal as well as company-wide? What is our definition of 2026 in terms of what we can do to achieve, right, and to go beyond? And one of the things I was thinking of is, how do we continue to stay relevant, right, as a commercial team in a world where, like, there are conversations going, AI is going to do the work of a revenue manager, which, by the way, you and I both know 20 years ago that was RMS. An RMS tool is going to do it. In my mind, I'm like, let AI do the job of a revenue manager. Let's take room revenue management off our plate and let's focus on what are the other revenue drivers we can start building and growing on. And I think it is the confidence in your ability to deliver performance that allows you to do that. And as a team, they feel secure recognizing, to your point, there's more than enough work out there.
Yeah. I've never had like running out of work be my problem.
Oh my God,
personally.
no, right? Oh God. Yeah.
So you brought up 2026. What's your feeling about next year right now? Are you feeling optimistic?
Sean, if I could predict the future, I would be a millionaire. We wouldn't be talking. We'd probably be like, I'd be drinking a cocktail on the beach somewhere. How's that? I think it's going to be subdued. I really do. I think next year is going to be subdued. I think there was some level of optimism in Q3, Q4 at this point in time of 2026. But, I think we're seeing the same things that you're seeing right now, where this year's probably going to be flat at best. Next year's probably going to be slightly up, primarily because of the class levels of hotels that we manage and the ability to continue to protect our rate efficiency. I agree with the panel out there. I think group is going to be key, and how we layer it in will continue to be key for us to continue to protect our transient rate efficiency. At the end of the day, it's recognizing that you are not going to be able to price higher than your competitive set, but what you can do is be highly effective in yield management when it comes to your segmentation mix, your room type mix, and be the first to capture that demand.
Yeah. This is talking about what to expect next year. It does remind me, I've been to this conference so many times now. I realize, this is my 10th year anniversary covering this industry just lapsed about 2 weeks ago. But I came to this conference 2 weeks after starting my job at then H&N back then. So it reminded me, back then, or until before or right after the pandemic, it seemed like this conference in particular, there was so much talk about where are we at in the cycle. And there was this hyper fixation of this is how we're doing compared to where we were last cycle, so that means that in a couple of years it's going to be here. That conversation has gone away. I never hear anybody asking about, where are we at on the cycle anymore? Because nobody has a sense that we're in this recurring pattern anymore.
Yeah, I think the degree of volatility right now is so high, it's hard to, kind of utilize past historic trends to identify what cycle we're in. And I mean, who knows, tomorrow could be a different world given the political influences we're living in, right? Tariffs on Alaska next, I don't know,
That would be functionally difficult.
Possible, right? But I think it's an understanding of, and this is what I tell the team too, right? As an industry, we're great at pivoting. We're great at looking at the situation and jumping. Not all industries can do that as effectively as we can. They're just big giants that are influencing those turns. Whereas for us, we're, to me, the perfect blend of large brands, smaller management companies, even smaller independents. And so we've learned to pivot very quickly. And I think that's why we'll continue sustaining that ability to say, we'll look at the environment that we cannot control, but what we can control is our ability to react to it, and we'll continue doing that. So it doesn't matter where we're at the cycle, just kill it on market share.
So I get the sense, though, short to medium term uncertainty and then long term optimism, right? Is that the take?
Yes, I think that's brilliantly said. Short to midterm uncertainty is absolutely correct. We'll continue to stay optimistic in the long term. I will say, though, and I don't know if you feel it too, but, pre-COVID, we had spent, 5 years going with the regular 3% growth to account for inflation. I do feel like we're back to that again. This volatility aside, it's obviously made things exceptionally exciting for us in commercial, but I think when you think beyond that too, I just, from a room revenue management perspective, I see us still being within that. Let's account for inflation, but do I see it going back to the 8% we saw previously? I do not.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I know everybody would love to go back to 8% rate growth, but they probably wouldn't want everything that went along with that to get to that point, right?
Exactly.
All right, well, I think that's all I had for you. Anything else you're dying to talk about?
No. No. You want to talk about...
Still no alcoholic
I was just going to say, can I show you a picture? Can I really just show you?
It's going to not read well on the podcast, but sure.
But I feel like you have to see. Do you remember us talking about alcohol vending machines?
Yes, of course.
I had a picture, and I have to send it to you. There's a coffee machine, like a coffee dispenser, and an alcohol. So it covers your days, and it covers your evenings. And it was at one of the hotels that I visited, and I was like, I have to send this to him. So I will
Was
show
it in
to
the
you.
U.S. though?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it was, Sean. It was in the U.S.
Okay. I mean, I'm not against it. I just know that there's a liability.
It gives
concern
me
there,
hope,
right?
my friend, is all I'm saying.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
All right.
Hi, I'm Davon Reed.
I'm Omari Head.
And I'm Chris Henry.
We're the hosts of the Next Gen and Lodging podcast. It's a monthly show in which we interview a new generation of hoteliers to get their insights into a variety of disciplines and topics, from finance to food and beverage and hotel operations. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the CoStar News Hotels podcast was recorded on August 7th, 2025 and edited by me, Sean McCracken. Thanks for listening and visit us at costar.com/hotelnews.